Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to an all-new preview of All American. First of all, I would just like to address that the last couple of days I've had issues come up, so that's why I was unable to upload some videos then. But as a result of that, I will be uploading 2 videos today. Later on, I'll be uploading a video giving my breakdown of the synopsis for episode 9, so that should be a good one. And I'll also be releasing 2 videos on Friday to make up for it. So, 2 today, 1 tomorrow, and then 2 on Friday to make it 5 for the week. So, should be a good one. I'll have a lot of videos for you guys over these next few days, and let's hop right into it. So, without further ado, let's get right down to what we'll be talking about in the first episode of today. And this is a topic that I've definitely thought about, especially in these last few episodes, given the circumstances. So, today we're talking about the possibility of seeing Billy and Laura getting back together. And if that is the case, will we see Billy move back into the house? And, I mostly question whether or not Billy will move back in, because we have heard that Billy has like a condo or something of his own, something like that in Crenshaw. But who knows, maybe he will move out and come back into the Baker house. But nonetheless, let's get right down to it, because I think that there are a couple of reasons at the moment that could lead to us seeing them getting back together with one another. So let's go over them here. First of all, I would just kind of like to go over everything we've witnessed throughout their journey to this point and what I think caused the ultimate result of them splitting up. And then we'll kind of get into the reasons of the present day to explain why I think they could get back together. So, okay, I'm just about to get right into it. So, put your listening ears on and let's get going here. So, of course, in the beginning of this entire series, we see that Billy approaches Spencer after their first game, and he tries to convince him to come play at Beverly and assured him that he can get around the recruiting rules and whatnot. So, of course, case in point, Spencer eventually does transfer, and that's when Jordan brings Spencer to the Baker house, and that's when we meet Laura, who, as we know, has turned out to be a pretty successful attorney, so. And of course, the relationship between Billy and Laura at this point seems to be going really well, and obviously the main reason why we even question it is because later on we see Billy appear at Grace's door, and I feel like it's apparent that they're keeping a secret of some sort from Spencer, as we know already. But then in the next episode, we definitely see an interesting moment where a flashback reveals that Billy was present at Spencer's first ever Pee Wee football game. So I feel like that might have been the moment where we started to question whether or not Billy was Spencer's father, and his wife and kids didn't even know it. So but then in the next episode is when we see Billy take Jordan to Crenshaw in order to try and get him familiarized with his roots, and of course Jordan, he doesn't really know that Billy came from there, he doesn't know that he hasn't always lived in Beverly, but this happens, after Jordan gets pulled over by the cops, with Spencer, and, in the situation, we can just tell that Jordan's never really been in a situation where he's had to deal with the cops, so he doesn't really know how to act, or didn't really know how to act in that particular situation. So, but anyways, while they're there, we see that Jordan finds out that Billy has set up some sort of Crenshaw trust fund account, and then we see that things get even dicier after that when Jordan spills the secret to, Olivia, who is kind of in denial about the whole scenario that Jordan's got cooking, because, obviously she's been interested in Spencer since he came to Beverly. But anyways, eventually the two do both eventually try to tag team Billy with questions, and he just turns them away, which really in reality only makes them more curious about what might have happened. And of course, the thing to remember for me about this is that Laura has no knowledge of what's happening at this time, although she probably should, because, obviously it could be a turning point in their marriage. So, anyways, moving on. In the next episode, it's revealed that Billy has been supporting his father, Willie, for the past 17 years. So, pretty much Jordan and Olivia's entire lives. So, then we go to Spencer's party, which is in Beverly, and Grandpa Willie comes, and, Billy is obviously upset with that. This forces Jordan and Olivia to kind of come clean about their investigation, and, keep in mind Laura is present in this conversation, but, after this we see Willie mostly disapproving of Billy and Laura's relationship simply because Laura's white, but, after that, we kind of see a scene where Willie pretty much just blurts out that Billy and Grace dated in high school. And, obviously this was a big moment, and Laura didn't hear this. So just to kind of clear that up. But now we fast forward to a couple of episodes later, and this is the episode of the homecoming dance. And we see Laura convince Grace to help Billy chaperone, and then we see later on that Billy's office door locks with Billy and Grace inside. And, while they're waiting for Laura to come save them, they kind of reminisce about old times, and Grace questions why he picked Laura. And, Billy tries to throw it under the rug, but he does answer anyway. So, I can't quite remember what he said, but in that moment, I feel like Grace kind of receives some of that closure that she was hoping for. So, okay, so obviously at this point, those were some of the things leading up to what happened. And of course, we see things come crashing down, when Billy tells Laura that he had an affair with Grace. I think it was near the end of season 1. So, of course, she was heartbroken at the time, and she wanted nothing to do with Billy from that point on. But, she was constantly pushing him away and tried to keep their interactions very brief after finding out the truth, and Billy then later on decided to talk to Laura, stating that, she is the real love of his life and he wants them to get back to what they had before. But, Laura's definitely hesitant about this, but that's when she decides to consult a therapist. And, eventually they did, obviously, and I feel like they slowly started to understand where the other is coming from, but after hearing the details of Billy's affair, I think Laura was just even more in pain than she was previously. So, but after hearing Jordan and Olivia kind of talk about how they'll always be a part of each other, Laura decides to hear Billy out. And, so he goes on to tell her how much she means to him and apologizes for what he did. And he tells her that he'll do anything to get back what they had, and she believes him. And I feel like she seemed to seal it by kissing him, but as we all witnessed, it was pretty short-lived when Laura decided that they needed a divorce. So, however, I feel like you can tell up to this point that they still had respect for each other, and supported one another, which shows that even though their marriage ended, they're still kind of amicable, so. So that kind of leads us to today's storylines and why I think that we could see the circumstances leading to them getting back together. So for starters, I feel like they have shared a couple of moments in this season between the two of them that have led to us to believe that they could get back together, and there's a couple of circumstances, like I mentioned, that could lead to them finding their way to one another, and some that they're not aware of at the moment. But, let's get right down to it. So, first I'll start with one of the moments that we've witnessed between the two and why it could be an indication. So let's hop right into it here. Of course, among the first moments I would like to bring up came from about a few episodes ago. I think it was episode 6, when everyone else was at the cabin, and Billy was at the baker's house trying to fix their garbage disposal. And of course, throughout the course of their moments, Laura seems to be enjoying the fact that he's there, while he's there, they kind of reminisce about the past when Billy like tried to fix their air conditioner at their old apartment in Miami, so overall they don't talk about a lot, but I feel like you can just tell by the way they're interacting with one another that it doesn't seem like their relationship could be over just yet. And of course, like we see after he fixes it, they have some vodka, and you can just tell in the moment that they're kind of vibing with each other. And we see them have a little discussion after Billy apologizes for interrupting her evening because, as we know, he thought she was going on a date, but she admits that she just had plans with friends. And, then they both go on to talk about how neither of them are dating. And in that moment, there's just a lot of tension, between the two. So that's definitely one of the moments I've seen this season that could lead to them being with one another. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about it, but I think based on that indication, who knows, maybe something did happen in that episode that we're not aware of. So, who knows? It'll be interesting to find out. But, okay, now in terms of the circumstances that I could see leading them to one another, there's definitely a few that I can think of that might eventually result in them getting back together. Some that they don't know and some that they will have to face soon enough. So, without further ado, let's go right over them and I'll kind of explain why here. So, for starters, I'm hoping that whatever happens moving forward is what's best for them, because you don't want to see these characters hurt and not reach their maximum level of happiness, if you will, So, the first thing I can envision that could bring them together and is definitely could Olivia's drinking bring them back together, especially if it involves Billy moving back into the house. And, I definitely could see this happening for starters because we've seen it throughout this season, especially that Laura and Billy haven't been particularly good parents. And I think that I could see them saying, you know what, I think the best way to resolve Olivia's drinking is for Billy to move back in and have both of them be there for her. And while I'm not 100% sure whether or not this would result in getting that back together, I could definitely see it happening. So, let me know what you guys think about it, though. I'm definitely interested in hearing if you guys think this could result in Billy and Laura getting back together. And, I feel like in a way, Billy and Laura being together again could definitely result in, like, flat out, a better life for Olivia and Jordan as well. So, second of all, another circumstance that I could see that might result in getting back together could be finding out about Jordan's marriage to Simone. And, the thing about this circumstance is that I feel like it has the same implications of Olivia's drinking, Well, maybe not exactly, but the big picture is that finding out could also require Billy to move back into the home. And the thing about this circumstance for me is that it's related to marriage, And I say this because if Billy and Laura find out that Jordan married Simone purely because of how much he's willing to do for her and how much he loves her, then maybe Billy and Laura will realize that they're kind of still in love with one another and lead them back to each other. I also feel like the same thing could be said about realizing Spencer's true feelings for Olivia, but that's another thing. So we'll come back to that at some other time. But overall, just let me know if you guys could see this as a result of them getting back together, and I'll try my best to get back to you. So it should definitely be interesting. I think a lot of this is gonna spiral out, I feel like, before season's end, and I think we'll know by the time we get there whether or not we could see this happen. So okay, and with that thought, I think that just about brings us to the point in the episode where I'm curious to hear what you guys think could happen. Will Billy and Laura get back together? And if so, in what way might we see that happen? Could it be because of Olivia's drinking? Could it occur if they find out about Jordan's marriage? Or, could Spencer's love for Olivia make them realize that they still have those same feelings for one another? So I'm definitely really curious in regards to this matter, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out over the long run. So, it's definitely going to be fun. Also, I did recently see, like I mentioned kind of earlier, a new promo for episode 9 of season 3, which comes out in less than 2 weeks, about a week and a half, more or less, So, later on, I'll be releasing another video in which I will break down the synopsis for everything we heard in that trailer. I'm definitely looking forward to it. It should be a good episode, but for now, feel free to hit that subscribe button to help out the channel here early on. And feel free to like and check out my other videos breaking down All-American. And as always, feel free to just voice out your opinions. As I've always said, I'm not going to call you out for anything if I think you're wrong. So let's just kind of keep it civil. But until next time, this has been Austin Bilek as always, bringing you All-American previews daily while the series is on hiatus until April 12th. Less than 2 weeks to go, everybody, once again. And of course, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.